What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Billy Liucci.
And I'm Amanda Atwell.
And I feel like I'm going to be moving some goalposts today, but we'll see if I can get you to do the same.
Just based on the week of sports Texas had, I think that might be a pretty natural reaction for you to attempt to move some goalposts after quite the successful week for the Longhorns. With the exception of what we'll talk about first, but
yeah, we're going to get into that in a minute. And first, we're going to talk about some La Casa tequila. I saw our friend Drake this weekend. He was at Troubadour Fest here in College Station, watching a little Whiskey Myers, Robert Earl Keen, and working hard. Sponsored by La Casa Tequila, and I certainly had a little bit of that, enjoying the show. So it was good to see him and catch up. And Amanda, we're going to have a little. I told him, I said, look. Amanda and I love La Casa. We love all the kinds. We have our favorites, but we want a little more of a little bit of an education. So when we have these conversations, we can educate all the people. Because he said it's been great. It's been crazy the amount of people that have come up to him and said they've heard about it from TexAgs or from this podcast, Moving Goalposts. So we want to keep that going. So we're gonna be armed with a little more information moving forward. But for now, all I can say is if you're a Longhorn, you're an Aggie, and you're going to be here at Bluebell Park next weekend, get you some La Casa tequila for your tailgates, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of intermingling, a lot of mixing, a lot of old friends getting together, and one big party here on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I did also drink some La Casa this weekend. I made a mixed drink. I finally made a mixed drink with our other sponsor, Catalyst, energy drink, because I didn't really feel like making an espresso martini. So energy drink and tequila, what better combination can you have? And I did the grapefruit flavor of the Catalyst.
That sounds
and
good.
The tequila, and it makes and I did a little bit of lime in it, and then some bubbly water, and it came out like a Paloma.
Yeah.
It was very good, so highly recommend.
That's actually what I had this weekend, was a Paloma, but that one sounds really good because you get a little kick to it too, thanks to Catalyst. They were also out there, had a good conversation with them. We talked about you for a little bit, you little brand ambassador. And so again, I had all the sponsors out there, so that was fun. It was a good concert too. Anywho, while that was going on, a busy weekend for the Aggies and Longhorns, but just to be honest, a hell of a showing for Texas sports this weekend. But more importantly, before the weekend, it was that Sweet 16, the loss of the weekend, but a win in getting there, and really as about as good a game as we've seen in the tourney, not at least up until Connecticut and
Texas had a couple good games, like a couple down to the wire games in this tournament.
But that was the one. That was the standalone, I think, so far in the tournament until, we had one early with, you had Kentucky, Santa Clara, you had High Point, Wisconsin, and then in the next weekend, the game of the weekend was Texas and Purdue, buzzer-beating tip-in, and then obviously what happened yesterday on Sunday topped that between Connecticut and Duke with one of the all-timers. But Texas and Purdue right in the middle of that March Madness drama, and Texas' ride comes to an end 1 second short of an Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Controversial call.
Most probably assumed that game would go a lot different. I kind of went into it thinking not having super high expectations as far as winning the game, just being impressed that they got to this point. They looked like a much different team in the tournament than they did at the tail end of the SEC conference schedule, which was, they thought when it mattered, they almost missed getting there in the first place. So making it to the Sweet 16, that's a hell of an accomplishment for Sean Miller in year one, which you said so yourself.
Yeah, it was. I've said all along, I think Sean Miller's a hell of a coach. When they hired him, I thought it was a hell of a hire. I didn't think they were necessary. They were a Cinderella because of where they were seated. Talent-wise, they weren't up there with those top 6-8 teams this year in year one under coach, but they certainly weren't a Cinderella in terms of talent, but they had to take the Cinderella path, and they did. Had they beaten Purdue, they would have been, in my opinion, a true Cinderella. And they played well enough both teams played well enough to win. I thought Purdue would pull away in that one, a lot like they did, I guess, the game before. I thought that was Purdue's. They kind of wear you down. They've got those bigs. They've got calm and steady guard play. But Texas rose up, and, man, as an Aggie, Tremont Mark can go away. Like, look, he's one of those players you respect.
He is insane.
He's one of those guys that if you're on the other side, you respect his game. But, I mean, go away. He buzzer beat A&M once at Arkansas, once at Texas. Had a great game in the SEC tournament against A&M. Hit a dagger of a shot here at Reed Arena, and then basically saved your season against NC State, and then went on to continue that throughout the tournament. He had a hell of a tournament. For any of these Longhorns, I keep seeing them comment on Rashawn Agee being so old and A&M playing him. Tremont Mark was in year 6. Thank God he doesn't get year 7 because he'd probably be really damn good. Look, March Madness, I've said it all along. We joke about in this part of the country, in football country, everybody jumps on late. I love college basketball because every game matters to where you're seated. And had Texas had a slightly different seed, maybe they're playing another game to the Elite Eight, and maybe they have one more game to really get it going. Same for A&M. Get out of that dang thing where in round 2 you have to play U of H or a 1 seed where you know in all likelihood your tournament's going to end with a 1-1 record. So that's why I love all those conference games down the stretch and how much they matter. Again, who knew that A&M Texas and that win the Horns had here when it seemed like they were really picking up momentum was going to be the only reason they made it in. Because had they lost that game, they're not in. And
winner of this game punches a ticket to the tournament, and that's what happened.
So I have a question about all that because I was getting into it with people. A&M, to me, they went 1-1 in the tournament. I think they've been to 12 tournaments. I think in like 8 of them, I think they've been out the door in the first round only twice out of 12, and I think they've been to 3 Sweet 16. So 7 of the 12 times they've been 1-1. This year again 1-1. Because this is what I've been going back and forth because Texas people are saying, well, we won 3 games, you only won 1. I'm giving y'all 2 wins. I'm saying you went 2-1, which, by the way, is better than 1-1.
2-1?
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Okay.
2-1. Which is, I'm not arguing.
I don't think that gives credit. I don't think that gives credit to how hard it is to be a team that's in the first 4 and have to play an extra game than all the other teams you're competing against if you win that game and move on. I think that completely just disavows how difficult that is. Playing that many games in such a short time period and still winning, that is just discrediting how difficult that is. And you would not be doing it if it was your school.
Well, I don't.
And that is basically trying to count being in the first 4 as not being a part of the tournament. Were the first 4 selected as part of March Madness?
The last 4, but
were
yes.
they a part of the last 4?
But selected, yes.
Yes. Were they selected as part of March Madness?
You know what?
Yes.
You know what?
Then it is a tournament game.
You know what, Amanda? It's early in the show. And I'm just going to say something. You're right. That's a good point. Everything about that point was good because you're right. That winning that second game a couple days, like they went from Nashville, had to hop on a plane before everyone else, go to Dayton, then go straight from Dayton to Portland and play, was it 2 days later?
Yes.
And survive that game against survive that game against BYU. So, Amanda Atwell, you are correct. I don't have any pushback there.
I would give the same credit to A&M if they were in that position because that's a more difficult path than anyone else in the tournament has, unless you're, of course, a 16 seed that's playing a number 1 seed. But you're having to play an extra game in different time zones. Body's fatigued. You risk for injury. With Texas was struggling with injury in the tournament.
I will say this. There's a reason we've seen 11 seeds like NC State go to a Final Four, like UCLA go all the way to the championship game. Somebody else did it. Maybe it was Florida State. But as hard as that play-in is, it's not 11 without the play-in is so much better to me than a 10 or a 9. 11 with the play-in is pretty difficult. 11 without the play-in is like that super sweet spot. A&M was a 10. If you could have fallen into 11 without the play-in or Texas risen up, next time you're watching these brackets and you see your team hovering, 11 without the play-in is so much better than a 10 or a 9, in my opinion, because in that second round, you avoid the 1 and the 2 seeds. And there's usually not more than 8, like, truly great teams, and more often than not, it's like 5 or 6. But there's certainly not 9. And once you get into those 3 seeds, you give yourself as an 11, if you can beat a 6, like such a better chance of winning than playing, a 1 or a 2. So, I mean, Texas and A&M both almost landed exactly where you want, but they didn't. But it was a really good tournament for Texas. I was going to ask you, where do you come off on which team had the better season? The Aggies, 2 games better in the standings. The team split the regular season games. Texas won one more game in the tour. You advanced one more round in the tournament, lost in the Sweet 16. If that was a little more of a gap in the standings, I think I would debate you on it. But I think what matters is what you do in March, unless there's just a huge gap in the standings. And you go, well, you sucked all year, you snuck in, and you just happened to win one game because you could do all that. They were pretty even. They split the head-to-head. Neither one of them won a game in Nashville. Texas won one more. I think they both should be really happy with their year ones under the coaches.
I think you can put them really close in how this season turned out, but I think the play in March Madness is what I'm going to put higher than just Texas turned it on when it mattered, and that's what you have to do in college basketball. And, I mean, you can argue the quality of 2 seeds, Purdue versus Houston, all you want, but Texas played with a 2 seed.
Yeah.
A&M did not play with Houston. And, I mean, you can also talk about the referees in both of these games because they were both an issue. But somehow Texas managed to still make it a close game despite the referees. I mean, and so I just think that gives Texas a slight edge, in my opinion. But once again, it's slight because obviously the regular season didn't go exactly how you wanted. You didn't get the seeding you wanted in March Madness, but you made the most out of what you got. You made the most out of making it in and having a chance. So I think you have to give a lot of credit where it's due to that, and making it to the Sweet 16, one of the final 16 teams in the country playing, is pretty significant.
And I think, look, here's what I'll say. I think, again, both teams were in year one under new coaches. There were different challenges for each. I think Miller came in and he had more talent to work with, and he brought a great player in Swain with him. But I think his culture thing, he had to fix that coming off, Rodney Terry. Not that he was a bad coach, but I think it kind of eroded there. They underachieved. Whereas Bucky, his problem was he inherited no one, but he got to create a completely new culture from nothing. So there wasn't an
almost
anchor.
Similar we discussed this earlier today, but almost similar to, Sark inherited a lot of talent when he came to Texas. He inherited a terrible culture, though.
Yeah.
And that was evident in year one, that the culture on the team, something was wrong with it. And you can directly point to Herman for that. Obviously, Herman had some major pitfalls in that category. So,
it's
pretty similar situation there.
I think that is. But yeah, I thought great seasons for both. And again, man, this portal, if you're a fan of such things in a slow time of year, you follow the Aggies and Longhorns in the portal, because one thing we both have in common is this. And they're going to go in and they are going to spend money, not only spend money to get really good players, but also they both have a lot of momentum, again, going into this offseason. I'm with you, though. The biggest difference, I think Texas had a little clearer path with BYU with the injury they had, and Gonzaga versus U of H. But the way Texas lost to Purdue, last second play, controversial tip in, and the way A&M, lost to U of H, where they were kind of out of it by halftime, that's also a big swing. What do you think of the foul there?
I mean, I don't like it, but that was the story of the entire game. You watched the game, and it was very frustrating watching how some of these fouls were called, how Purdue was playing, and it was evident based on just kind of the national response, not even from Texas fans, of what people were saying, just commentary online about this game. And I didn't post anything independently about that foul because I'm personally I'm just not a person that likes to blame a loss based on a ref. But that is pretty frustrating because it wasn't only that could have changed the course of that game. The officiating was not good. And to have that happen on the final play, very, very frustrating.
You're not too young to remember, but you don't remember because you don't follow the Aggies as much. And if it happened like 2 years ago, you'd remember, though, just because it would have been such a thing on socials. But years ago, Texas A&M played in the second round against 1 seed UCLA. Kevin Love, Westbrook was a star of that team, and Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love. They were like 1 seed, played for the national title. A&M played them in round 2. We're up like 10 or 12 with 4 minutes left. Very similar situation. The Aggies had the ball. They were shooting the ball to go to overtime. The guy was absolutely mugged in midair. No call, game over. Talked about it for 5 minutes afterwards. Next thing you know, UCLA's the darling. They forget all about the Aggies just like they did the Longhorns right after that foul. My only thing is, because Purdue had the ball, it's a shitty thing either way because you either don't call it when it was a hook and foul, and God knows how many of those they let go both sides the whole game, or you call a foul on a rebound and walk to the other side of the court with no time left for free throws. It's tough. And if I'm betting money, I bet that ref was kind of hoping the tip-in didn't go in and they went to overtime. But they have no control over that, and Purdue goes on and Texas doesn't. But crappy way to lose if you're a fan. I've been there, done that. I wouldn't want anyone celebrating it when it happened to the Aggies. I try not to celebrate it with the others. I do have one thing I always say, though, to not you, but the Texas fans that get on me about close losses. That's exactly what they've been doing since. So, anywho, moving on to where we will have this discussion. Baseball, softball, diamond sports, Amanda.
Close losses in basketball are also, I feel like, different than close losses in a lot of other sports, especially buzzer beater type things where there's a contentious call at the very final second. I feel like it's a bit different of a thing that you're looking at.
You're talking about if they tackled
oranges. And also, you're comparing a Sweet 16 loss to a regular season conference loss in a sport where you play 3 games.
Let's talk about the 3-game thing. Let's do it. Okay, I'm prepared. I've done my homework. And by the way, you make a good point. What you're basically saying is, what if the A&M receiver would have been tackled in the end zone against Miami, and that's the only reason Miami intercepted the pass and won the game? What would we be saying? I get that. Okay, so first of all, we know what's coming. We will talk about it next week. It's the Aggies. It's the Longhorns. You may have to dust off your picture from Dish Falk last year, but that's coming up. We will shelve that for now, but we got a lot to talk about. Let's start with A&M baseball and move into the really juicy stuff because you guys had
Texas baseball too. You can't ignore that.
No, I'm saying start with Aggie baseball and then we'll talk because there was a lot going on.
Yeah, you got your revenge this weekend.
Big revenge series
from the most embarrassing series of all time. Last year.
Hey, all BS aside, it was, and not only was it embarrassing. If you go back to last year, A&M was playing their ass off down the stretch. They won at a top 2 Tennessee team. They won at a top, by one, I mean win the series. They won the series at Tennessee, who's top 2. They won the series at Arkansas, who's top 2. They won the series against LSU, who was top 2 and won the national title. They lost. They got swept in Austin, which was terrible, but they played really good.
They were close games.
Yeah, they played really good baseball. All 3 decided 9th inning. Not that
they were kind
count.
of boring games, but I wasn't mad about it because Texas won.
Yeah, they were not a lot of offensive fireworks, but intense in the closing innings. But played good top 10 baseball there, but just couldn't figure out how to beat Volantis at the end of games. Anyway, they were playing outstanding baseball. They went to the SEC tournament. They beat Auburn. They beat Mississippi State, and then they lost in extras to LSU. Point being, there was one thing that kept them out of the tournament, and it was the easiest thing for them to do. Missouri was 0-27 in SEC games last year, but they were 3-0 against A&M. They came in here
and these were not
them.
one-score games or one-run games last year.
Yeah, they pummeled them. And Mizzou's
that Sunday game, yikes.
And Mizzou's not good this year, but they're a little better. They've been a lot more competitive. And you're going on the road in front of no fans, which I always think is a trap. I always think that the better teams let down because you're just not used to doing that in this conference, in any sport. But they go in there and they bludgeon Missouri. So it's a nice bit of revenge. They needed the sweep because up next is Vandy, Texas, LSU, and Florida. So they got it. So hopefully those bats stay hot against Vandy. And the Aggies last year were 1-9 to start SEC play and had already lost 13 games. And now they've lost only 5 total, and they're 5-4 in the SEC. So definitely playing a lot better, but also
you had a bit of a rebound. I know you were a bit frustrated after that Friday night game, but it got a little better for you.
Yeah. They almost blew a 10-1 lead, but hung on. So anyway, big sweep. I think you have to back that up, Amanda, with Texas on deck, who might be the best team in the country right now. I mean, it looks like. So with them on deck, you've got to I think you got to handle business against a solid Vandy team, and you got to win that series at home. But speaking of winning series at home, Texas with a sweep of Oklahoma. They beat them by 2 touchdowns. They beat them in a walk-off, and then they beat them on the game 3 on Saturday.
Another walk-off.
A sweep of OU. So take us through that. Just more ownership of the Sooners by the Longhorns.
Yeah, I mean,
in
the
all
Sooners
sports.
Definitely the Texas. I cannot talk. OU definitely seems to have a Texas problem recently. I mean, they've split the series in basketball, men's basketball, but if you're looking at the big 3 in men's sports, baseball and football, since these 2 schools have joined the SEC, Texas has just pretty much owned them. And you did see, if you were on social media at the time of the Saturday and Sunday games, you saw a lot of the similar takes that you have about the close 1-run games and that commentary, and how if the strike zone looked a little bit different on this pitch, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2 days straight, you get a 3-game series for a reason. And you have to put it away, especially the Saturday night game. OU was in the lead for a long time.
Yeah, 3-0.
Texas was quiet for I think the first 6 or 7 innings or so, and then came alive, sent it to extras in the 9th inning, and then win the game. So, I mean, says a lot about where the program is. We have Texas State tomorrow, so another one of those lovely midweek games in that the SEC has been doing so well with recently. I think Georgia lost theirs last week to a bunch of
Ironically enough, and I shouldn't say this because A&M's got Sam Houston, but A&M hasn't, which is good. It's better than the alternative, but it seems like everyone else has.
I'm just not going to be a person that clowns those ever, because
I wouldn't say ever, because last year you and your sidekick were all over me. I think they had lost to UTSA. You guys were sending me
That was
Roadrunner
early
gifts.
season, though. Wasn't that pre-conference play?
Oh, yeah. Just not, yeah, you're talking about Tuesday nighters in season.
I'm talking about Tuesday nighters in conference play.
Yeah.
Because I think you just evaluate your pitching staff a lot differently.
You do.
When you're playing the big time conference, especially with how good the SEC is at baseball this year. You really want to save your good arms for the weekend, especially when last week Texas was playing on Thursday, started the series on Thursday. So it was a short week. Not a pretty game, but is what it is. And we know how much Texas State loves playing Texas. So not super confident about that. Who does y'all play Sam Houston tomorrow?
Sam Houston tomorrow. But so Texas now, you look at the SEC standings, they're right up there with Mississippi State at the top. They've won all 3 series and now a sweep over a top 10. I guess OU's out of the top 10 now, so I don't know.
I think they're in the teens.
I know how
somewhere.
you like to do, so I guess we can't call them top 10 anymore. They're in the teens, but a top 15 Oklahoma team.
It's a rivalry. You always weigh rivals a little bit higher, I think.
I think the rivalry games
Rivalry
matter.
aspect.
So Texas they're rolling along. I mean, they went into Auburn last weekend. Auburn got swept. There was a weird weekend in the SEC. Auburn got swept by Bama. Tennessee got swept by Vandy. Arkansas got swept at home by Florida. There were a lot of sweeps. Texas swept. A&M swept. A lot of hurt feelings this weekend around the SEC. But as we sit through 9 games in, Texas sitting there at the top of the standings. So there you go.
We'll see. It's a long baseball season.
It is.
I mean, they're looking like the best right now, but it's a long baseball season. This weekend you go on the road to South Carolina, then followed it up with A&M.
They should sweep them. It's baseball, so you might not, but they should go kind of like A&M did with Missouri. I mean, the gap between Texas and South Carolina with their interim head coach right now is massive. It's crazy how far that program has fallen from their national championship days. But
did you see the Texas injury, though? Adrian Rodriguez likely out for 2 weeks. Shortstop.
I think they said, potentially even more, and that's the A&M series. That would be that's a big difference because he's a really good player and obviously makes some pretty incredible plays defensively. Had that big hit against OU that essentially won the game, right? Wasn't that him that hit the triple?
And he was playing through it.
Yeah.
And it was just looking like he was playing through something.
Yeah.
By the end of it.
Well, I said it. We got our debate last week. I said Texas was at or near the top.
I think you can say they're at the top at this point. Now that can change.
Yeah.
Once I said it's a long baseball season, it's fluid.
At this
they're
point,
at the top right now.
At this point, including Mississippi State, who they're tied with in the standings, I think Texas has looked better. And I think the reason I say that is that pitching rotation. Anytime you can throw, Dylan Volantis on a Sunday, that's not normal. Normally, you're done with guys like him and Ruger Friday, Saturday. And most teams don't have the flexibility or the depth to pitch a guy like that on a Sunday. That's just silly. So that makes them, I think, not only really tough to win a series from, but also really tough once you get into that postseason setting. So, again, it's baseball through 3 weeks of conference play and through towards the end here of March. I think they're looking like the class of the league right now. So let's move on. Speaking of class of the league, softball, they're sitting atop not only the SEC standings, but the national standings, the defending champs.
Starting to hear some yapping from Tech fans on the softball side, which I know is your favorite fan base to hear from.
Oh, God. When you hear yapping from Tech or OU, you know they're feeling threatened.
I think I have more respect for OU fans because they have a semblance of achievement over the past 10 years. They are a respectable athletic program.
Historically, going back to our parents' age and before that even, yeah.
And that's how I've always felt about the OU rivalry. We hate each other, but there's some level of mutual respect between the teams. I feel similarly about A&M.
Yeah.
A&M, I mean, had their struggles over the year, but obviously is competing at a very high level now with all the changes that have made since they've been in the SEC. It's taken a little bit, but they seem to have gotten there. Tech, last time Texas played Tech in football, they beat them 50-0 or by 50 points, but you would never know based on how Tech fans talk.
One of their old quarterbacks was in there talking shit the other day, wasn't he? When you guys lost,
I quote-tweeted him. I was at that game. He posted a picture he was clowning after Texas lost to Purdue. And he posted a picture of him celebrating on Texas's field. I was at that game. Texas beat Tech 70-35 that game. It was the first game that I had gone back to after college. It was my first Texas game. So thank you. I don't even remember his name. That tells you how relevant of a quarterback that was.
No, Tex had some really good quarterbacks. He wasn't one of them.
No.
All right.
And then look, I got a reply from a Tech fan saying, this isn't the own you think it is. He scored 3 touchdowns and went for 300 yards. You still lost by 35 points. That is 5 touchdowns.
That was, I remember a story one time.
The delusion is high.
I remember a story one time. I forget who was coaching at A&M, but one of the players went into his office after the game, and he had kind of been criticized during film study, and he went in and said, I had 18 tackles this week, and the coach made him watch every tackle and how far it was from the line of scrimmage as a linebacker, and said, you were also on a defense that gave up 38 points and we lost. Like, the fact that you're in here,
that's a very self-serving.
It tells me about you as a player.
Mindset.
Yeah.
I don't care how many points you put up. Did your team win? It's about the team. It's a team sport.
Points, yards, you lost. Texas Tech, you lost.
I mean, would you be expecting Marcel Reed to be sitting there yapping about something like that if Texas beat A&M 70-35?
No, I wouldn't expect anyone to be saying that if you lost 42-41 and you threw for 500 yards. You should have thrown for 530 and you would have won. Those are the competitors I want. To be very clear,
I don't think Marcel Reed's the type of person that would ever do that.
No,
just a real life example.
Let's talk softball. Aggies and Horns, Lone Star Showdown.
We also didn't mention, I know we're off the subject. Sorry to cut you off. I know we're off the subject of basketball, but Texas is tipping off against Michigan currently in the Elite Eight. So
we got to get you going to go watch that.
Maybe we'll have a result by the end of the show. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the snark of how Michigan felt slighted by Texas?
Because they put the label on the wrong game.
Yeah.
Some people are so. Look.
Did it look like they were doing something intentionally?
No.
It was
I will be the first one
trying to stick one sticker.
I will be the first one to call y'all out about something, right? I will. That ain't it. They clearly were not doing that.
And Vic Schaefer.
They would not have done that. It was very obvious, and I just saw where Michigan's girls were staring down Texas's girls as they were coming out of the locker room. It's stupid. Hey, Michigan girls, this is not Michigan State. This is not Michigan, Ohio State. And as we sit here, as they're about to tip off, I will tell you, I feel very confident that that's going to backfire on Michigan because I know Vic Schaefer. But I think, Amanda, Texas, I don't know if they'll win the whole thing because UConn exists and UCLA is really good, but they're one of the 3 in South Carolina.
Texas is.
Texas can win it. They can win it. It doesn't mean they will, but they are capable of winning it and Schaefer winning his first ever title. So it ain't going to be Michigan.
Would you be happy for Vic Schaefer?
Yes, I'd be happy for Vic Schaefer, Blair Schaefer, Sydney Carter. 1,000% I'd be happy for them.
I feel like the Texas women's basketball team is an easily likable team.
They are one of those that come off as likable. I think much like A&M's women's team that won the national title about 15 years ago, which Sydney Carter was one of the starting guards on that team. I think they were a team that crossed, and Vic Schaefer was the defensive guru for that team. I think they were a team that crossed over where probably Texas fans were going, I hate Kim Mulkey. I don't like Brittany Griner, so I'm rooting for the Aggies and in that Elite Eight and coming out of the Big 12.
Honestly, my soft heart for LSU, that does not extend to Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
So Let's be very clear.
Did you see the nickname that somebody gave for their new trio of coaches now that they've got Will Wade?
Oh, God.
So Will Wade, Lane Kiffin, Kim Mulkey. Think of that order. Wade, Kiffin, Mulkey. The lion, the bitch, and the wardrobe.
Oh, no.
I mean, that is so good. Mulkey's the wardrobe. I mean, that is awesome. So accurate. So accurate. But anyway, would I be happy for them? Absolutely. Hell, I'd be happy for Jeff Banks if Texas won a football natty. I would, but I am not. I'm just sorry. I'm not rooting for Texas to win this one.
I don't expect you to root for Texas.
I can't.
I mean,
But Gino REM is really hard to root for too.
It'd be an easier win to tolerate than like a football national championship, I'm sure.
That is absolutely true.
I can say I'm not terribly torn up that Texas A&M won the volleyball national championship.
Yeah.
Seemed like a very likable team, a very good team, a very deserving team.
So, softball. Speaking of national champions, Texas is defending champs. Beat that Tech team you're talking about last year in the final. And they're rolling right now. They had won, was it 29 or 30 games in a row?
29.
29. A&M kept them from 30, but Texas won the series.
I think that win streak was ending this weekend or next weekend.
Is it OU
regardless.
next weekend?
I think, let me double check.
I think so. Why else would they say the win streak's ending? There's no one else you would assume losing one of three to.
It sounds like about time that they're playing OU.
So Texas wins the series. That's always the priority. That's always like if they were handing out a trophy on weekends, every weekend in the SEC, you would hand the trophy to the team that won two.
Play Alabama next weekend, by the way.
Oh, really? They could sweep Bama.
And then OU the following weekend.
That's what they mean.
Probably in the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, look, A&M goes up there. Texas handles business in the rivalry, which, as you said earlier, is very tough in any sport. A&M.
Where's A&M ranked?
They were like 15 before that series.
Okay. Do you think that's high or low?
I think that's deserved. I think they will go higher. They're playing at a higher level now. And that was my whole point, Amanda, was Texas won the series. They walked them off in a wild game in game one. They won by 1 run in game 2, so 2 one-run games. And then A&M beat them by another wild 2-run win in game 3. My point was to say, if you're A&M, and people don't want to do anything with context anymore, for A&M being number 15 and having
you can only put so much context in the number of characters you have on Twitter.
Yes. And they had lost a lot of ranked games early in the year. Some they weren't real competitive in. They've won 2 SEC series in a row coming in, and they go down to Austin against the defending champs, the number 1 team that hadn't lost in 30 games. That's lost, 1 game all year? And they go out and they beat Texas on Sunday, and it's no reason for a banner, no reason for a parade or cups. But I walked out of that weekend watching that and seeing those results going, okay, they are definitely playing much better softball right now. And after watching and following that, now I feel like Trisha Ford's team, more than I even did going into the weekend, can be a problem in the postseason and actually advance this year, which they did not do a season ago when they were the number 1 overall seed. So that was what I was saying.
I don't think it's fair to just say that the softball team had losses to ranked teams, because I don't think that's what people were being critical of. They were likely being critical to the losses to, I believe it was to Texas State. I think Louisiana was one of them.
They were. Who's good? I think they won and lost to them.
Yeah, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns.
Who are good. That's not a bad loss. They've lost 11.
Okay.
So my point, that's my whole point.
Doing a quick glance because I was curious.
So but I thought they went in and they played the best team in the country off their feet. They played them essentially even for the weekend. And everybody's saying that is a banner. I've seen many different iterations of it. Some of them are funnier than others.
Yeah, the creation of AI has really allowed people to be very creative on Twitter.
I like when they do the banners that are like tweets that are like super wordy, and it's like a long banner with a ton of words on it. Those always make me laugh. We had another guy here, Broninger, did one when Miami was playing like Indiana, and they hung it, and it was like hanging in the building. It was like words from very top all the way down to the bottom. But so yeah, anyway, look, I'm not apologizing for like, what'd you call it, insane levels of cope? Was that what it was? I'm not. I think.
Let's see. You got to put the context.
I think I'm in the right.
I was responding to.
Well, check it out. You got your
put in the context of the tweet because you were saying that. Let's see. Where is it?
I hate to break it to you, but I'm right on this one against y'all's entire army.
I will have a retweet or delete / moving goalpost for you at the end.
Yeah.
Might make you change your mind. We will see.
Well, so within this, you've got some that we were going back and forth on about this softball where, again, it was.
Okay, this is what you hear.
Let's hear this.
Wait. So you said, I've spent today listening to the same fans who were so incredibly proud of their Sweet 16 finish. Should they not be?
No, they should.
Sweet 16 finish, you're comparing a postseason tournament to a in-conference game, not really comparable. And buzzer beater loss, tell me how I need to quantify this weekend's softball results. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the list of topics. I said, yes, losing in a Sweet 16 in a tournament you hardly made it into versus winning a single game in a regular conference series that was already technically lost as a highly ranked team. Completely comparable. And you said, and I hate to tell you, but the series was already lost is not how baseball softball works. Do not mansplain to me how a sport is.
I'm telling you. It's not mansplaining. That's
winning
co-host
a series
splaining.
Absolutely goes into the ranking, and if it didn't, they wouldn't play series. It absolutely is a factor. Winning the weekend is a factor in it.
So wait, so if I was mansplaining, what is this?
And if you want to say overall record, I think there's a couple other losses on that resume that you need to be concerned about.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm saying they all still there's I guess softball there's 27 of them, baseball there's 30. They all count the same at the end of the day when you're deciding who the conference champion is. So when you've wrapped up a series, it's not like let's say you've clinched a playoff berth and you want to rest your starters. They went out to win that game just as intensely and purposefully as they did the first two that they won. That's what I was saying. But yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, of course, I didn't say it. Of course, who wins the series matters in the rankings. You'd be nuts to say it didn't. Like,
also matters in the Lone Star Showdown rankings.
It does. It does.
You don't get a point for losing the series.
It matters on some level, and I don't think I ever said it doesn't matter to win the series in like the rankings or whatever. It does, right? Like, so yeah, like you were
definitely trying to downplay it in this post, which is why I pushed back on it.
I was not downplaying the win of the series. I was downplaying Game 3 not mattering.
Okay.
That's what I was pushing back against. Any vibe or anything to go, the series was already won. You get what I'm saying? Like, yes, first mission.
It was already won, but.
I know, but like first mission already accomplished, yes. I just don't, I think when the rankings go down, it's like you would have been higher had you been 3-0 versus 2-1, right?
I mean, they're 8-1 right now, so I don't think they have to worry about that one to be much higher.
That's fair.
In conference play, 31-2 overall.
Do you want to keep going? You can't. That's all you had to say. I guess you could say they're number one. I'm going to say it, and you can say what you want about it. I'm happy with the one win, not going in saying, hey, I'll be happy if they lose this series, but I'm happy with the direction the season's going, especially.
Happy they didn't get swept. All right, we're going to put a pin in this, and we'll come back to it later.
That's such bullshit that you just said that. Happy they didn't get swept. I didn't say that. You did.
You said you were happy that they got one win. That is happy that they did not get swept. Because without that one win, you are getting swept. You happy they didn't get swept.
Let's go to the next one. I just mean I'm happy they won game 3 after they lost the first 2. It wasn't, hey, I'm glad.
That's the same thing as being happy that they didn't get swept.
Yes, but it's not. It's like thing. My preference would have been a sweep. My preference then would have been a series win. My preference by Sunday was just get a damn win and don't get swept, and I'll feel.
You just said you were happy they didn't get swept.
I wish I could rewind this and see if you really made me say that, but I want to go. Let's move on to the next thing. We'll wrap up the weekend in sports. Aggies won equestrian.
Woo! Do you have a confetti popper?
I wish. You know what? And I am. That is a conference championship.
Who all competes in equestrian? Out of curiosity.
Do you know, Amanda?
That's a real question. I don't know who else we compete in rowing and beach volleyball.
See, I don't know, like, when you're doing this to mess with me, or if you
SEC equestrian. I'm gonna look it up.
It is like rowing, and I'll kind of roll my eyes when people go on there and celebrate rowing. But it's look, you compete in it. It's nothing against the meat judging team at A&M, but it's a sport. Meat judging. Meat judging is a
meat judging just sounds a little interesting.
I wouldn't mind. Like, I'd love to see what exactly are they doing? Are they just looking at brisket and I need to get one of those people on the show one day, and because it is something that a lot of people outside of A&M will be like, "What the hell is that?" We need to get them on. But meat judging is a competition. Equestrian is a sport. It's in the Olympics. It's like rowing, it's just like not everybody in this part of the country does it, but it's an actual sport.
I almost joined the rowing team at UT, fun fact.
You probably would have been pretty good at that. I don't know what made me say that. I didn't want to
wake up at 5 a.m. and go to Town Lake and attempt to row.
I wouldn't do anything. Any water of Town Lake touched my body.
Oh, do you want to guess how many teams compete in equestrian?
Do you really want me to guess?
For fun?
Out of 16?
Yeah.
7.
I was honestly surprised that Texas didn't compete in it, because I know one of my friends that was in my sorority, she started the rodeo team at Texas.
The equestrian center is named after a Longhorn.
4 teams compete in equestrian in the SEC.
Right,
but A&M was the underdog going into the weekend, so upset.
I'm going to give you a chance here to get out of this without any snark from you. So you want to be nice. Snarky. I know. I'm saying I'm going to 4 teams, and they were the best of the 4. How many compete in rowing?
Let's see. I'm curious. SEC
all the big
teams that compete in rowing. Let's see. 4.
Okay.
Same thing.
There you go. All right.
Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas. So pretty even there as far as partially irrelevant sports go. Okay.
But you know what? Let's make it a point on this show that we don't want to take anything away from the rowers or the equestrians' accomplishments.
Rowing is hard. And riding horses is also hard.
Like, they're really talented. It's just that not a lot of teams are doing it. But I've had girls work here, 2 that were on the equestrian team. It is a same thing with rowing. Like, you got everybody that goes into the gym thinking they're warriors for getting on the rowing machine. Go row in some real water. These are sports. Again, like I said, they're Olympic sports. So let's give them credit. Congratulations to A&M. Congratulations to Texas men's swimming. The Aggies had their first ever guy win the national championship in diving. So, but the Horns that's a dynasty that y'all have got in the pool and on the boards. That's for sure.
I mean, back to back. So, I mean, coming back under a new coach, which is big. Then you have, so you wanted me to pull up the tweet of John Bianco.
Yeah, I was just saying
All
for
the
you.
Texas sports for the weekend, the wrap. Texas women's basketball advancing to the Elite Eight, which this will come out tomorrow on Tuesday when that has wrapped up. Texas baseball, Red River rivalry sweep. Texas softball secures the Lone Star Showdown series. 2 more wins for Texas beach volleyball. And Texas rowing, I guess, also won this weekend. He just said off and racing.
Good weekend for them. Good weekend for you.
Solid.
Let's move on to some spring football. I actually this weekend took in an Aggie practice on Thursday, another one on Saturday. So got some about 5 hours worth of football practice to watch. So got a good feel for where the team's at right now. We'll do some notes, observations from the Aggies and Longhorns real quick.
I pulled some notes for Longhorns from the On Texas football folks who have been going to all the practices.
Perfect. And we have Tex Ags and we have On Texas, the two best in their respective markets. For me, I thought Marcel had, man, he looks so much better right now than he did last spring. Like if you just took a 1 year after snapshot, you can tell this is a quarterback that played some really good football last year. You can tell that it's a guy that's highly motivated after the finish. He's practicing different. He's running the ball quicker. He is getting rid of it quicker. And what I was most impressed with on Saturday, they did like a lot of quick game stuff on Thursday where he's getting it out. And I think that's something new you'll see under Holman Wiggins, where they just try to say, hey, you got all these playmakers, get them the football. But it's going to be mixed in. For those wondering, somebody was like, well, that's not going to work. It's like, no, that's a piece of it. And then you went to practice on Saturday, and Marcel's cutting it down the field. Deep crossing routes, intermediate, post patterns, corner routes. I thought he was on fire on Saturday. And the second thing that really stood out to me were those Aggie receivers, led by Mario Craver and Alabama transfer Isaiah Horton. But Terry Bussey has had a tremendous spring through 5 practices. And not even to say Ashton Bethel Roman, because he got banged up Thursday and didn't return. It doesn't look like anything like long-term like that, but who knows when he'll be back in terms of spring practices. But, Amanda, I'll tell you this. Their freshman receiving core is going to end up being really, really good. So remember the names Aaron Gregory, Jaden Warren, Madden Williams, and Mike Brown. All 4 of them in those 2 days turned in a lot of really nice catches. They run good routes. They're fast. They're big. There's some combination of all the above. I think they hit an absolute home run in the high school ranks with the receivers they went out and got. So that should be fun to watch. Noah McHale, I've mentioned him. I've been out there. He looks exactly like I'd hoped and expected. So is Marco Jones. But Noah at linebacker, I think he's going to be a breakout second-year player for this Aggie defense. He looks the part physically, but he also plays the part. And you're watching him fly around. He and Damian Sanford are really jumping out at me through a week of practice. O-line, D-line, I know you're going to ask me. You can't really go into that yet because I see a ton of shuffling. Like they're not set on, hey, this is the first team O-line, this is the second team, and D-line the same way. But I will say this. I think they did a great job in the portal. I think Wilcom Formby's an absolute hit. I think on defensive line, Anto Saka is an absolute hit. So is C.J. Mims, and there's others that have caught my eye. So that's kind of my early thoughts. And one guy I haven't mentioned a lot that I think is going to be an instant impact true freshman, which you won't have as many of. Obviously, the Aggies and Longhorns are so stacked right now. And I talked to a ton of NFL scouts, Amanda, that were in Austin, and then the next day they were at A&M. And they said, and they've told me before when this is not the case, and they were every one of them, when they got here Wednesday, they said, man, Texas looks freaking good, dude. Like they have players. And then they got here, and then I followed up with them the next day, and they were like, yeah, Texas A&M's got freaking players. So everyone for the NFL level that came to the both spots walked away going, okay, Aggies and Longhorns should both be really good this year. So that's got to make both our fan bases feel good because both those crews are completely unbiased. They don't give a damn whether A&M or Texas wins or loses, or makes the playoffs or doesn't. So instant impact, though, here's a name for Longhorn fans that don't follow what I'm writing as much, although way too many of you do, based on what I read you writing and talking about on these message boards.
I'm almost impressed with how much free time some people have to
follow their opponents.
So in tune to follow every single detail of these things. I mean, I wish I had the time.
I get my stuff from you. I get a lot of my stuff from you. You know, like I don't have time to research it, but
I just go on very
you're getting it from
rabbit
crew.
hole. I don't know if you've ever seen any of CJ Vogel's rabbit holes because he dives into statistical rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I tend to do that too. And then I find something else that interests me in the rabbit hole and I just continue down it until I have like all this information. I guess it's why I did good in school because I would go on rabbit holes of information and I retained it somehow. So.
Well, again, the name I'm going to say is Bryce Perry Wright, true freshman defensive lineman. I think no matter how things shake out, he on defense and Aaron Gregory on offense, I think those guys forced their way into meaningful playing time year one. Absolutely. So what about your Horns? What do you got? What do we got going in Austin? What's your crew saying that's been out there at practice?
Okay, so some of the recent notes, obviously, just they kind of glazed over it. Everybody, all the big names you expect to be impressing in spring practice have been impressing in spring practice. So your Cam Coleman's, those kinds of guys. But they tossed in some names that haven't quite gotten as much hype that really made an impression in spring practice. That's Bo Masco. Michael Masunas, which is very good news in the tight end department with the departure of Endries.
Yeah,
and then Sterling Buckhalter, which wide receiver from Wake Forest, transfer in. Kind of you haven't heard as much about him, but I looked him up and he's a ranked 24/7 Sports 4-star wide receiver in the transfer portal. So that just adds more depth to a room that's already pretty stacked. And the way they described him wasn't necessarily saying he's going to make massive plays next year, more so that he's a reliable pair of hands, just a very reliable person as far as just being able to catch the ball with which Texas had a lot of difficulties with last year with a lot of the wide receivers. Just they get it thrown at their face and they drop it somehow. So that's always good to hear. Outside of that, basic feedback from all of spring camp has been the portal class has upped the competition at nearly every position. And it's different, I think, than previous years with Sark because Sark has never gone this hard in the portal.
Yeah, for sure.
This many people leaving. Sorry, I have a fire truck driving by. Had this many people leaving and this many people entering the program. I think everybody can remember him pretty clearly. Really wanting to hone in on developing from high school. And then obviously the nature of the game is changing and you have to change with the nature of the game or you're going to get left behind. See Mike Gundy.
Dabo. So
it's a lot different than previous years spring camp as far as new players getting acclimated to the program. Other than that, news, Arch Manning practiced. He's recovering from an injury, but he didn't practice. He didn't do a full practice. They're taking it very, very slow with him because why not? Why not get these other players reps under him? They're going to need it just in case. And you have a really good quarterback room, but you have an unexperienced quarterback room. And then a couple freshmen really making names for themselves, which I don't think will be any surprise to anyone. Derek Cooper and Jermaine Bishop really just standing out, probably going to make an impact in their freshman season. And then on Texas football bets are on Raleek Brown to be starting running back if season started tomorrow.
That's interesting. That one's interesting because
interesting insight there.
The crew that and they were only there a day. It's kind of how I am here. Like, I'm like, okay, you guys are here a day. Or people that cover the team that come in from Dallas or wherever. Like, you guys aren't here every day. But the people that were there a day that I talked to, they really love Smothers. So,
well, I mean, then you have
it's good news for either.
Yeah, you got spoils of running backs, which is much different than last year.
Listen,
I mean, Godspeed to Wisner. Loved him for what he did for the program.
I still think
was not enough.
You're nuts for not TikToking that running back one, and that one's going to come back to haunt me because I think they're going to put up big numbers.
I mean, I can still put it up. We'll see.
I think they're going to put up big numbers in that offense this year, those running backs.
Wait till a nice, real slow lull. I mean, we got a long off season ahead.
Yeah, and you've got
hold on to some content.
You've got about 3 really. Dude, your people are nuts in there. Like I thought,
TikTok comments. It is funny how the algorithm works in TikTok in a much more friendly way than it does in Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten kind of quieter on Twitter in the last couple months just because people get really, really nasty on Twitter. Yeah. And one, I have most of my mentions muted unless it's somebody who, like, if somebody responds who regularly responds, I'll probably see it and I'll engage with you if we're normal. But Twitter mentions are very, very toxic. TikTok somehow pushes it out to the exact target audience that you probably want it to go to. So I probably want to go most of my posts that I'm posting on TikTok, I want them to go to Longhorn fans. And that's generally what happens. You'll get a couple Aggies in there, but it's just how the algorithm works.
Well, they just cheer you on. It's crazy.
Exactly. I think somehow TikTok makes for friendlier comment sections most of the time. I mean,
oh no, don't kid yourself. Have you gone and read them? They love talking about me, but it's not like terrible. They're just celebrating your clip.
Your comment will not go up if you write something awful on TikTok. You will get an account you will get your account deleted.
Really?
That's how TikTok is very, very strict. Can't really post curse words, nothing vulgar. Like they're very, very strict about it. So the comment sections stay a little more kind.
You know, it's
which
funny.
Is
not to get political, but I don't want to go on the whole TikTok and China thing. I don't give a shit. But I'll say this. I sent like an old country music video, like 90s country, like Keith Whitley or Travis Tritt or whoever it was, Tracy Lawrence. And I sent it. I'm on a group chat with a bunch of my buddies from college. And I sent it to them. And every single one of them within a minute were like, we don't have TikTok. We don't use TikTok. I'm like, okay, guys. Like, I go, real, and they're like, well, we don't. I go, you guys are
They're on Instagram Reels, so they'll see this video like 2 months later.
So I nicknamed the whole group chat. I changed the name of it to just the Angry Old Whites, and that's the group chat now. They're just like, we don't do TikTok. It's China. It's China. China's spying. I'm like, do you not see what happens when you mention anything on your phone that all your algorithms go to it? My pinky toe hurts.
I'm just as worried about my own country spying on me as I am. I'm more worried about my own country spying on me than I am China. What's China want to do with the 13,000 cat pictures I have on my phone?
And I'm sure there's something else to it that I'm oversimplifying, but we're having fun. And it is like
what are they going to steal?
It's just funny.
You want to steal my student loan login so you can go make a payment? Feel free, China.
All right, let's go on with let's look at these. We're going to skip this Big Ten talk. Shelve it for next week because it is an interesting discussion.
All right, y'all, if you're looking for a clean energy boost on game day or honestly any day, check out Catalyst Pure Performance Energy. This stuff is built for people who want energy without the junk. We're talking zero sugar, no artificial colors or flavors, no preservatives, and no artificial sweeteners. Catalyst gives you a steady, non-jittery stream of energy thanks to natural nootropics and the same caffeine as a cup of coffee, so you get focus and endurance without the crash. And the flavors, superberry, pomegranate power, orange dream, citrus spark, cherry lime charge, and grapefruit, all refreshing, never syrupy. So if you want to fuel your workouts, your late night study sessions, or your Saturday tailgates, grab Catalyst Pure Performance Energy at a store near you or on drinkcatalyst.com. Ignite your performance.
Okay, Amanda, so I'm pulling up the FPI rankings, which people will reference. And I do think some people base a lot of their, when they do their early season rankings on. So there's a whole algorithm. We could go over it. We don't have to. But this is what their S&P rankings were that were really interesting to me. And like you said, Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana were 3 of your top 6. But then there was more of a drop where you didn't see the Big Ten until like the teens again, all the way down at 13. But there were some interesting things that stood out to me. Teams of note: Ohio State 1, Texas 6, Texas Tech 7, Miami, who beat A&M 8, the Aggies 9, and then here's what's interesting for A&M: they're 9, and they only play one team ahead of them in the rankings at 6 in Texas, but they've also got 10, 11, and 12 on the schedule right behind them. So there's a glut of these SEC teams right there. And then I went further and I looked, and here are some thoughts I had for you. Texas plays 8 of their 12 games against top 25 FPI teams. 8 of 12.
Let's compare Texas Tech and let's compare Ohio State.
And A&M plays 6, but only one of them ranked ahead. Texas Tech, Amanda, like I said, Texas plays 8. Texas Tech, can you guess how many top 25 teams are on their schedule per FPI?
It's either 0 or 1 or 2.
It's 0.
They don't play BYU?
No, they do not play BYU or Utah. Texas and A&M combine in 24 games to play 14 teams with FPI in the top 25. Texas Tech plays 0. This is the shit I'm talking about.
This is also the difference, I think.
Have to factor that in.
When you think about the schedule Texas had their last couple seasons in the Big 12, yes, it was easier than a lot of SEC schedules, but it was not this easy. Mm-hmm. It was not this. You still had OU on that schedule every single year. You had an actual good OSU team you were playing. Yeah. You had a Kansas State team that was knocking on the door every so often. Yeah. You had a TCU team that was knocking on the door every so often. Their schedule is pathetic.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. So that was the FPI.
And I will say, if you follow Dave Campbell's Texas football, a lot of people probably saw their preseason rankings for teams in the state of Texas. And I think the way they ranked this was who you can expect to get in is most likely going to end up in the college football playoff, whatever. So obviously Texas Tech's at the top. Does that mean they're the best team in the state? I sure as hell don't think so.
No.
I think you can put Texas or Texas A&M on a field, and Texas Tech would have a hell of a time winning a game against them.
We'll do let's do over-under ones next week. You had some interesting stuff about the draft with Pro Day just wrapping up in Austin, in College Station. You had some interesting stuff in the draft. Why don't you hit us? We'll talk about that. It's an interesting topic that A&M almost, they definitely need to be mentioned, but in terms of being behind so many of these teams, it's almost like they get a free pass here because Elko went from 3 draft picks to likely 9 or 10 in one season. I think, not to say they'll go out and get 10 the next year, but I think with the way they're recruiting and developing, you're going to see more of that and less of what we've seen, but it's still pertinent to the discussion. So why don't you talk about some of what you saw, because I know OU fans have been banging on Sark in terms of lack of player development in the way that they were Jimbo.
Unless they just didn't watch the draft the last 2 years, how they can criticize lack of player development. Because the last 2 years were the first 2 years that were really Sark's true classes. Yeah. 2023 were the guys from the Herman years that chose to stick around. And I think you can qualify those at that point as Sark's guys because they have been with him for a couple years and chose to not leave. So just some stats for you. In the last 3 years, Texas has had 28 draft picks. Okay. And of those, 6 were first-round draft picks. Now, you look at A&M, obviously different situation as far as a coaching change goes. A&M has had 10 in the past 3 years. Also, if you want to look at active players in the NFL, if that's a better evaluation for how teams are developing talent, Texas has 47 active players in the NFL. A&M has 33 active players in the NFL, which isn't bad. I'm not trying to say this is bad. We're comparing things. Still very strong. OU, who loves to clown Texas for that's one of the things they like to talk about the most, especially since the Charlie Strong and the Herman years. Herman and Charlie Strong years, they range from 2 to 5 draft picks. Each year. Maybe one year they had one. 2022 they missed a draft overall. That, my fun fact I sent you, Texas didn't have a player drafted in 2022, but Cameron Dicker was picked up as an undrafted free agent and is now the Pro Bowl kicker. Not a completely lost year for Texas, at least. So OU, in the past 3 years, do you want to guess how many? I think I told you, so.
No, I didn't remember, though. And drafted in 3 years?
Yeah.
20-something, 24.
10.
Wow. A&M might have that this year.
And they've had Venables.
No. Venables is he's going into year 4.
So last year they had 2 players drafted.
No, Venables going into year 4. He's going into year 5. I think he's going into year 5, yeah.
And, I mean, you look back to Lincoln Riley years, those draft picks looked a lot different.
Yeah. And Lincoln gravy trained off the Stoops wake as well. He kind of did what Les Miles did with Nick Saban. You gravy train off the wake of those guys because that was back before the portal when coaches left and players left.
2022, last year for Lincoln Riley, 7 draft picks. So, I mean, do we need to have the conversation about if Venables is developing talent? Now, I will say I think OU is going to have more draft picks this year just based on what I looked at of who is eligible.
Venables is in – we talk about Elko and Sark and what this year means to them. He's in such a fascinating spot, too, because if he gets them back to the playoffs and you go 10 wins in year 2 and then playoff, he's looking good. If they go 8-4, 7-5 this year on that schedule and he doesn't go, people are going to look at that playoff berth as a fluke because it will be the outlier, not the norm for him.
He's had 2 losing seasons.
Yeah. So if you go losing season.
I'm sure a lot of Longhorns saw the clip from our friend SEC Mike about who's going to get fired first, Steve Sarkisian or Brett Venables. Now, I watched the clip in full because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And my take on it is I don't necessarily disagree with them, but it's for a different reason than what you would think. I think Texas has less patience because 2 losing seasons with Steve Sarkisian, he is on a red hot seat. Brett Venables is not on a hot seat, and he wasn't on a hot seat after.
I think he will be though. If they don't go to the playoffs, they better barely miss it. If they go 8-4 or worse, I think their fans are going to be really impatient in Norman. Like, yes, they are slower to be impatient than Texas fans and probably even A&M fans, even though the Aggies don't have near the history that Oklahoma does in football, obviously. OU's a true blue blood. But they are a little.
They haven't had a national championship since 2000?
Yeah. And it's crazy that Bob Stoops
haven't won a single playoff game. How many times have they made the playoffs?
Several. I mean, they went with Baker Mayfield. They went with Kyler Murray. I think they went with Jalen Hurts.
They couldn't win a 12-team playoff game.
Yeah, no. And they were up big. Were they up 17-0 on Bama?
Yeah.
And lost that one at home? Oof, that's tough. That's tough.
It's one thing to lose the way A&M did.
Yeah,
it's another thing to lose being up by that much in a night game on your own field to have a team force a rally.
By the way, can I jump? I am so over the stupidity of harping on A&M not scoring a touchdown. Yes, it's a bad offensive performance, but people act like that game, it was like, they only scored 3. It was 3-3 with a minute and a half left.
Just a defensive.
It was a great defense, not good offense.
Disgustingly defensive game.
The only guy on offense that balled out for either team was, it was Fletcher, Miami's running back. Dude was a complete stud. Outside of that, it was a bad offensive day, a great defensive day. But it wasn't blowing a 17-point lead at home to a team, by the way, the next weekend it lost 38-0 or 38-3 in Alabama to Indiana. A&M lost that game to Miami, who went on to kick a lot of ass afterwards. So anyway, OU, I think
thank you, OU, for giving people the offseason argument of should a team that beat OU had been in the playoffs instead.
Well, and moving on, you know that I've been saying OU has a Texas problem. And we said,
you wanted to talk about the LSU draft picks.
Oh yeah, well tell me about those, because I think it's fascinating when you told me the number, because I'm like, man, that tells me how bad a job Brian Kelly did. We can't skip over
the Texas Tech draft picks because they like to.
How many of them
were talking about how Sark can't develop either. So Texas Tech draft picks, they have had 5 in the past 3 years total.
And they're going to tell you that those days are over, because look at what's going to happen in this year's draft, where they'll probably have multiple first rounders, and that's great. My question will be, get back to me when you actually develop any of those players and they're not coming straight from the portal.
Yes. Because I mean, if you want to look back at Texas's draft picks the last 2 years, most of those players were developed through Texas.
Mm-hmm. And I don't mind a portal guy getting drafted. A&M might have 6 of them this year. I think it's actually a good sign for Tech and A&M and Texas. You get portal guys drafted, it means you're evaluating, getting the right guys, and they're panning out like you thought. But I want to see Texas Tech do what some of these other programs have done and actually have guys matriculate through your system for 3 and 4 years and get drafted. That's player development.
If we want to talk about draft picks, LSU has had 77 in the past 10 years, which is
almost 8 a year. That's crazy. It is crazy that it shows.
Pretty crazy.
And that's Ed O, that's some Les Miles, and that's Brian Kelly. That shows you that really anyone can get players to Baton Rouge. It also tells you, I think, what a terrible job Brian Kelly did down the stretch. I've said
in the past, just in the past 3 years, they had 19. So pretty solid.
So moving on, as we continue down the road, what do we got next? We're talking, I'm trying to find our list here. Where are we? Oh, yeah.
OU and A&M, Texas problem.
OU, the Texas problem. LSU, the A&M problem, I've said. There was a lot of other chatter this week, and you pointed out in one of your tweets that it was pretty strong. It was pretty strong with the because I said I don't think A&M's got a Texas problem per se. I just think it's a little early.
I think we got to wait to see baseball season this year as well. And it also just depends on what you're looking at. Texas obviously won the Lone Star Showdown last year. It's much closer this year. I think A&M leads 5.5 or 6.5 to 5.5 right now.
Close now, yeah.
A couple more spring sports to play, but I mean, let's be real. There's only so many fans that care about every single one of those little sports. Obviously, the trophy at the end of the year is important. It's fun to be awarded it, and it's, I mean, winning the overall Lone Star Showdown is important. It'll be really close this year. It'll be a lot closer. I can't remember what it was last year as far as finals.
So let's get into that, because somebody asked me, well, what's A&M better at right now? And I said, well, volleyball. They're both great.
Soccer. Texas sucked at soccer this year.
Well, they both got rid of they both had coaching changes. So I don't think it's like a brag either way there. But volleyball, Texas has won 2 recent natties. A&M won 1. They're the defending champs. I'll give that to A&M, but both
are good at volleyball.
Both are powers. I don't know. Like, do we have to go down every sport? Like, let's really talk about like what matters to. Everything matters, and there is
football matters the most.
Yes, it does.
So Texas is winning there.
Yeah, and that was something
we're talking about the Lone Star Showdown. Texas is winning that. Talking about winning college football playoff games. Texas is still winning that. I would say basketball, pretty tied.
Pretty close, yeah. We talked about that.
Yep. Baseball, Texas currently winning. TBD. What else do we care about?
Well, Texas is in a better place baseball-wise. Let's not be silly. They've spent a lot of time in the top 5 the last 2 years. Before that, it was all A&M. Part of the frustration of Slosh going to Austin had to do with the fact that A&M not only was winning, they had a stranglehold on Texas too. They were running Texas in baseball. They knocked them out of Omaha. They knocked them out of a regional. They went down to Austin and won a Tuesday night game. You know, they had it going.
Sean missed us being in the Big 12.
Well,
you could gap from your other conference, and now you have to actually play.
It's so funny, isn't it? Just hilarious.
It's fun.
That little laugh. It's not funny. It's not. And you know what? It was fun for me to yap from the. I will admit, I had a lot of fun.
I got a lot of yapping in my files.
I had a lot of fun yapping from the SEC. But listen, football is a really interesting one because where are the two programs right now? You know, like, is Texas higher? They have been. I don't know.
Texas has won the games.
Yeah.
Texas has won college football playoff games in the past 2 years, which is the length of time Texas and A&M have been playing each other.
Yeah, that's good. I would just say who are the better?
I think Texas has clearly ahead. You can come and have a conversation when you win a college football playoff game. If you want to base it off of where the programs are, because yes, Texas missed the playoffs last year. A&M missed the playoffs the year before and had an 8-win season.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has had the better.
Would you say Texas A&M season in 2024 was worse than Texas's season in 2025?
Yeah.
Okay, then I think we're clear to Texas.
Would you say Texas's season in 2025 was worse than Texas A&M's season in 2025?
Yeah. But not like, it's not the same difference. It's not, we're talking about a 10-win season versus an 8-win season.
Yeah,
and Texas also beat A&M both of those seasons. In Texas's worst season, they beat A&M. In A&M's worst season, they lost to Texas.
And A&M's best season, they lost to Texas.
Yes.
That right there is the one that makes this a difficult. But I'm just saying, like, if you look at like where the two programs are at today, I think they're pretty even.
I think Texas is in a better position going into next year.
Man,
I think they lose less. You have admitted that they lose less. Texas A&M loses a lot, and that's not slighting on the talent that Texas A&M has. Texas A&M is in a very similar position that Texas was going into last season with the amount they lose. You're losing 4 offensive linemen, and we saw how important that is when it comes to protecting a quarterback, especially one like Marcel Reed.
They did go portal to address it.
But we'll see. It's an unknown. It's still an unknown.
It is an unknown. Look, they both return quarterbacks that they're building around that have had a lot of success.
I would put Arch above Reed.
I know you would. And I wouldn't fight. I would fight you on that, but a lot of people around.
Nobody is fighting me on that.
That is correct. You're not going to see a lot of that.
How many interceptions did he throw in his last 3 games?
I think he had 7 turnovers in the last 3 games.
So we need to see that rectified, and then maybe we can put him closer to level, in my opinion.
I just think, look, they're both picked top 10 preseason by everyone. A&M went and reached the playoff last year. They had Texas beat them, but they had a 2-game cushion in terms of how the season went. I mean, I know what the trajectory looked like at the end of the year for Texas. It looked encouraging for sure. But man, like, yes, you can lean Arch, you can lean on Sark's. Is it 3 years? Last 3 seasons?
3 years.
The 2 playoffs and this
Big 12
one.
championship playoff, 14 playoff.
When he's winning playoff games a couple years ago, Elko's at Duke. So, I mean, like, what's happening at A&M right now, it's just a couple years behind what Texas
But
did.
you also argued that Texas A&M was more ahead of schedule, or Elko was more ahead of schedule than Sark was at the beginning because of how the nature of the transfer portal has changed and how he has been able to utilize the transfer portal differently than it was being used in 2021.
So tell me the metric for, like, when I say right now, today, like where they're at as programs. Why is Texas ahead of A&M in your mind?
I just told you.
Arch?
You have wins in the college football playoff. If we're looking at the times the teams have played each other, we are looking at the renewed Lone Star Showdown. All of the accomplishments in the renewed Lone Star Showdown. Texas has made the SEC championship, which you are toting making a college football playoff. So we'll tote making an SEC championship, which is something A&M has yet to do, and which is something that Texas held A&M out of 2 years straight.
That sucked.
Two college football playoff wins, 2 wins over the program that we're discussing.
All right.
And they weren't what we like to talk about, these 1-score wins that we can argue about being either could have gone either way type situation. There was a last minute play in the end zone, that the 4th and 1 stop, but would that score have given you a lead? No. You would have had to do something else. So you can't talk like that's a guaranteed A&M victory if you had converted that.
So this year's teams, both of them top 10. We've established Texas is more accomplished in recent seasons, right? If you compare, like, say we're comparing team resumes. Both these teams this year are picked to go to the playoff, right? By most. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Aggies were to get into the playoffs, have a similar year to Texas, I think they're both pretty loaded. Texas, I think we've gone through positionally. The Longhorns, I'll give you this. They have the high-end draft picks sitting there this year, it seems like.
I am more confident with Texas's depth. There is one key position A&M is missing that gives me pause about A&M.
It's the line of
running
scrimmage.
Back position.
Oh, running back.
I think that could be a pitfall if a younger player could step up and be the changing point, but they've
got a really good true freshman.
But true freshman's a true freshman. We got some really good true freshman quarterbacks that have never seen the field in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I like the running back. I like. I've got a question about the room too, in terms of like who's going to be the do-it-all back. Who's going to be the you're in the second half against, Oklahoma or Alabama or Texas or LSU. Who are you getting the ball to 10 times in the fourth quarter when that's what it's going to take to win the game? Who's going to take the pressure off of Marcel Reed? I get it. Like, that's a question I've got too. I'm trying to think of what question I would have for Texas this year. Probably, I would say defensively, just adapting from PK to Muschamp. How does that go for them? Because offense, they sure seem loaded. I would be surprised if the O-line didn't take a big step. It looked like they were towards the end of last year.
I mean, I think it's easy to take a big step in the O-line. It's not a high bar to raise.
Yeah, I think so too. I think So the whole point was, does A&M have a Texas problem? I don't think so. I think if they go, if Texas sweeps in baseball this weekend, and that's an 0-6 spot since Slosh left, that's a problem. That's a concern. If they're 0-2 in football.
How many more games against Texas are you going to have to lose in football to say Texas A&M has a Texas problem?
I've got a U problem. I've got an Amanda problem.
We can talk to Grant on that one. He has a me problem too.
Jeez, 1-1. Like, yeah, if they go 0-3 and lose 2 at home, I would say one more. And they need to win that game at home this year. And if they don't, they better go win some playoff games. I'll put it that way. Like that is a very important game. I could not imagine coming out the chute and going 0-3 to open SEC play and renewing that rivalry with 2 of your losses at Kyle Field. And you're right, the margins of victory, they haven't come down to a play. Blah, blah, blah. Go put this on your damn TikTok, change the subject. What's next?
Okay.
Can you tell you got under my skin there? That one, I actually legitimately was frustrated there. I'll admit, because that's gonna come off poorly because I was like getting aggravated with your little. It's like a basketball game when you're going on.
I just felt like I had to make the same point over and over again.
It's like because I'm trying to fight it back. I'm trying to defend the point.
No, you can just say, "Oh yeah, you got a point."
I think they're okay. Can I end it with this? I think they're close.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both very good football programs. Yeah, they're both top 10 programs. We'll move on that part.
Yeah, and I think both. It's been a while since they've both been top 10 programs. And I think our conversation is completely different. If A&M would have gone into Austin and won that game last year, you'd had a perfect regular season.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. We got the Taylor Swift song on deck if we want to play it afterwards.
We'll close out with the Taylor Swift song. I hate when you quote Taylor lyrics to me too.
I feel like I've quoted that one a couple times. It's a great song if you haven't heard it.
I like that one. All right, let's go.
Let's go to the Ask Billy, Ask Amanda segment.
Yeah,
we got to cruise
through these.
I can get through my.
We'll do 10 minutes total before we close this thing out. Okay. So, quick question for you is I was just going to say, let's just have some fun with one. What people were rooting for Texas against Purdue. It was rare. You even mentioned it. Like, wow, it's odd to see people actually pulling for the burnt orange. Why? I'm not going to go into the whole thing. I'm asking you. Why do you think so many times Texas had nationally in big games and big moments, going into seasons, off seasons, why do you guys wear the villain hat so often?
I think it's just how big the brand is. Yeah. That's part of it.
Kind of like Notre Dame.
Also the number of rivals that Texas has, like number of true rivals Texas has. There's not many programs that have the number of true rivals that Texas has, which I like the fact that Texas has true rivals. It makes the game better.
Yeah.
So you have A&M, you have OU, Arkansas, can call it rival. Mm-hmm. Used to be a little bit more contentious. I mean, when Texas was in the Big 12, I considered Texas Tech a rival.
Yep.
I mean, not really in college. I didn't really care about Texas Tech. But once the whole Chris Beard thing also kind of elevated that.
Added to it for sure.
Texas Tech hates Texas a lot more than Texas cares about Texas Tech. But, I mean, we can call Texas Tech a rival.
Okay.
I think that's part of it. I do think there's a certain level of a lot of people consider the pride that Texas fans have as arrogance, which a lot of fans do come off very, very arrogant. I think for my perspective is different because I actually went to the school.
Yeah.
I went to school. I graduated from the school. It's such a big brand. It's going to have T-shirt fans. A&M has T-shirt fans. You can ask half my high school that went to Blinn. It has T-shirt fans.
Yeah,
they never got into A&M.
I don't hate T-shirt fans at all.
I don't hate T-shirt fans. I mean, and so many T-shirt fans have different stories. They have some kind of connection to the university that makes them like the university.
I will say
maybe
this.
Their daughter goes there. Maybe they went to the military instead of going to college, and it's a team they grew up loving.
I love that. I will say this, though. I think my experiences in a lifetime of being a college sports fan, T-shirt fans, if you took the loudest and most obnoxious among any college fan base, whether it's A&M, Texas, Michigan, LSU, like the T-shirt fans make up 80% of the obnoxious.
I lived in Louisiana. I know.
Yeah,
I lived in Louisiana. You want to talk about T-shirt fans? Let's talk about LSU. Because every single person in that state is an LSU fan.
Yeah.
And have zero connection to the university other than when they turn the football on turn the football on Saturday.
All right.
So I mean, but anyways, so I think it's a perceived level of arrogance, obviously. I mean, I'm going to have pride in my school. Texas is hard to get into. It's a good school, and it kicked my ass while I was there, so I'm very proud of that degree, and I'm very proud of the school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to be very proud of being a Texas
That's
Longhorn.
not arrogant.
So
that's not arrogant. That's pride.
I think that's part of it, but a lot of people see, like, somebody who's as passionate about Texas as I am as being arrogant of how much of, like, wanting to stand up for the things my school has accomplished. So I think that's part of it. But Texas basketball is not really known as, I think a lot of that just kind of resides in the Texas football spectrum.
Yeah.
Texas basketball isn't known as a blue blood. They're not really, I mean, yeah, they've been to the tournament plenty of times. They've never won a national championship in basketball. So I think that makes them a little bit more endearing when it comes to basketball, if people are just choosing somebody to cheer for in the Sweet 16. And in this specific situation, I think a lot of fans were just watching how Purdue was playing
and they went
not
in
liking it.
Well, I think people around the Big Ten despise their style of play too.
Yeah.
They think they foul a lot. They get away with it. They intentionally do it. I think that had something to do. What were your questions this week?
Let me pull them up. I think I only really have one interesting one.
Okay.
Where did it go? Okay. This one, you brought it up briefly earlier, but of just how you were watching Marcel in spring practice.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to have to alter the way he plays the game a little bit based on who he has around him? So I said this a lot before last season. Marcel was going to be as good as the players around him. He had a great offensive line, which held true through most of the season and let him kind of get the ball where he wanted it to go. He's not going to have I think the O-line is going to take a step back even though you went to the portal.
Yeah.
Could still turn out to be a really solid O-line. That's just saying how good your O-line was last year.
Yeah, and they're going to have
he's
4
going to have
drafted.
to change his way of play. Get the ball out sooner.
Yes, I do. And I think not all the time, but I think they have to add an element of that to back teams off. And if teams are going to drop back and face you and not dial up pressure because they're scared of Marcel's running ability, if they're going to be dropping linebackers like Texas did the whole game, you got to get rid of the ball quickly underneath them and turn that quick passing game into a running game. And Mario Craver's elusive as hell, and Ashton Bethel and Terry Bussey can break tackles. Bethel Roman and Craver are burners, and Isaiah Horton's just a big bodied guy that can win one-on-one matchups. So, yes, to do that. I think, yes, Marcel needs to tuck it and run quicker. Put the pressure on the defense and don't let them do it the other way around. I think that's something we need to see more of like second half against South Carolina Marcel, where it's just like, hey, man, I got to get this now. Every single play is it. It's, and just, I guess the word would be to me more like urgency. Like he started the LSU game and put them to bed early. He set the tone right away, like it's my night. Like he did against Notre Dame, where he's like, okay, we're going to shoot it out. Even against Arkansas, like we talked about, a crappy defense, but he realized the A&M defense wasn't getting stops, and he said, I got this. He needs to be like that more, but I agree with you. Get rid of the ball quicker, and I think also he's going to have to be more careful in the red zone. You brought it up earlier. It was a great point with the interceptions. Because if he doesn't have those type turnovers, what's A&M's record? They beat Miami. They might have beat Texas. I don't know. Texas offense in the second half had a whole hell of a lot to do with that. But certainly they're advancing, or they got a great chance to advance in the playoff. And by the way, he had he had one interception against Notre Dame, but he had 400 yards. I
don't think the interceptions were quite as a problem until closer to the tail end of the season.
They weren't. And look, you said it the other day, 3 of the last 4 best 4 defenses they played were in their last 3 games. And you throw in Auburn where they scored 1 offensive touchdown. So sometimes you make decent points. I'll admit it. Let's go on. End it with your moving goalposts. What do you have this week?
Okay, so you want the we will revisit this comment.
Yeah, what was that one about?
Twitter. So the line of thought, the comments on losses by 1 point and the moral victory that comes with losing a game close and what it says for the program moving forward. That you agree with me there. It says positive thing about the program moving forward. So what would have been your evaluation on the 2022 Texas football team that went 8-5?
I would say that was 22.
2022.
I guess
so
I would say they made
second season.
Slight progress. Like not good. Not a good season. I know what you
thought about
not a good season.
Program. Okay. Do you know how many of those losses were by one score?
No.
All of them. Every single loss, including Alabama, where they lost by 1 point.
Really?
Yes.
Well.
So, and some of your tweets following that 2022 season of Texas. So this was July 12th of 2023. You were replying to somebody on Twitter. Okay, you're a 5-loss program and acting like you're going to win the Big 12 and SEC back-to-back. Well, they did one of those things. And then played in the SEC championship.
I know.
The next one was December 4th of 2022, directly following this season. Get back to me if and when Sark reaches year 5. So very high indicator of how you thought this 8-5 season went. This was preseason, so we'll see. But this one was 2022, July of 2022. He said climate hasn't changed until Sark can break through and win 9 games for once. He's done that the past 3 seasons.
That's it? Are you still? You had 4 of them?
I am just pointing out your evaluation of close losses seems to be different when it comes to looking at one team compared to another.
Yes.
Okay.
What? I don't even know. Like, what do I? So yes. My close losses. Just laugh. I'm glad you think you're so clever with that one. That was a setup. Yeah, I think close losses.
You are right. Because you said close losses are an indicator of what could come of the program and what happened to Texas football in 2023.
They went to the playoff. Yeah.
And went to the college football playoff.
Hey, listen, dude. Here's the thing. Can I say one? I'm going to say one thing to try to defend myself. I'm going to say one thing here. That was good, Amanda. That was freaking good.
Some of my best work, if I do say so myself.
It was. But I'm going to say this. I love how proud of yourself you are, too. Like, it's like, you've won an argument. You would not be a good lawyer because you can't sit there on the stand and smile and gloat and laugh. And the judge is going to be like, ma'am, this is not this is a courtroom. No.
I would say professional like Reese Witherspoon and Legally Blonde.
All I would say, that's what I feel like. I feel like you're Reese right now. I would say this. I'm not doing a very good Joe Pesci from My Cousin Vinny right now either. I just unloaded on you the steps of what you have to do after you get a perm. Yeah. Here's what I'll say. I would have to go through and see who those one score losses were.
Here, I can tell you, I have them in front of me. I have Alabama, it was by 1 point. I have Texas Tech, overtime loss, 37-34 in Lubbock.
Yeah.
We have Oklahoma State, number 11, 41-34.
Okay.
We have TCU, number 4, TCU.
Okay, I get the point. Like good teams. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and then the other loss was the Alamo Bowl to Washington, who Texas met again the next year.
And Penix and DeBoer, I get. Okay, you've won. And all I would say is my point was going to be, and you just took it from me, was going to be, I was talking about A&M losing close games to the number one team, the defending champs, a.k.a. a really good softball team. And that was I don't take like a victory lap and moral victory.
You were talking about baseball winning close games to Texas last year, or losing close games to Texas last year.
This is Moving Goalposts. We do this every week. I don't know why. I'm Billy.
And I'm Amanda.
And we're going to end the show and say good evening.
We'll see you next week.
We will be talking about...
Maybe.
We'll be talking about A&M Texas baseball, which I hope are not close losses, but instead close wins. So you can tell me how... I don't know.
That's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks from now.
Goodbye. Good night. I'm going to go eat dinner.